Today I'll be talking about transit priority implementation. This project's part of the CEP group that you probably all know about, and it's the one of the two projects that's about sponsored by Vic Roads. So the structure of my presentation today, give you a bit of an outline of the research, talk a bit about the progress and some overview of how we are going towards finishing it, and also talk a little bit about the research contributions. But crucially, I'll tell you about the two new contributions to research that have come out of this project. First of all, a new framework for transit priority implementation, looking at legitimacy, and also some pragmatic strategies for how to actually implement transit priority in car-centric cities such as Melbourne. So, talking first about the research outline, we're talking about transit priority. So things like bus lanes, tram lanes, or things that work at intersections by giving time priority. So transit signal priority, the Bs and the Ts that you're quite often used to seeing around town. It's a simple reason to do transit priority. It makes better use of the space that we have. It's not rocket science. We should be using transit priority because transit is more efficient. When you've got a light rail vehicle with maybe 300 people stuck in traffic, as quite often happens in Melbourne, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But you know, we're making progress downtown, and by prioritising transit, we can move more people more efficiently. The problem, of course, is that in places like Melbourne, where a lot of people drive, transit priority isn't very popular. We've had a few goes in Melbourne that haven't worked out too well. Some have been controversial at least. Clarendon Street, I love the quote down the bottom there, "You just can't get a park." And they lost, I think, 20 parking spaces to put in the far side stops. And it was like the world had ended, I suppose. This one's good too, very emotive. Fury at Stud Road bus lane. When there are more buses than cars, then give them their own lane. That doesn't make a huge amount of sense, because the idea of a bus is you get everybody in the bus, not one person per bus. But this is a sort of rhetoric that you sort of see sometimes in the media about it. It's not just Melbourne, of course. Toronto, everyone's favourite mayor, Mayor Rob Ford. The war on the car is over. I wasn't aware that there was a war on the car, but that's what happened when he became mayor. And more recently, the King Street pilot transit. You know, this was erected by a restaurant, and literally they were putting the middle finger up to everybody passing on the transit. They were that angry about it that they were willing to annoy all of these people who might possibly come to their restaurant. And it's not just in practice that we sort of find this difficulty trying to get involved with transit priority implementation. It's also in research. Transit research generally doesn't look too much at politics. Marsden and Ridden's fairly recent paper really did notice that there's not enough interaction with politics and legitimacy and power in transport research. We do tend to focus too much on the technical stuff, the engineering stuff that we all sort of love. And this very much applies to transit priority implementation. We can't just be viewing that from a purely technical perspective. We really need to be looking at the policy-making processes. And we sort of see this in some places where there's been some great success. There is some research out there, you know, looking at places like Zurich, where it's really worked out quite well as far as transit priority, and they're really talking about how it is a political problem, not just technical. And I'm sure you're familiar with the very large amount of research about Curitiba's BRT and the great successes that they had there. But you know, it didn't necessarily come from the technology of BRT. It came from, you know, a political will and power, and that's sort of the crucial thing, which might not necessarily be investigated by transit research all that often. And particularly, I'd say that the research about politics itself isn't widely published. These two examples here, unpublished, PhD dissertation, it's hard to get there, but you can see a lot of research about the technology of BRT from Curitiba. There's not a huge amount about how it actually gets done.